welcome. This is a new show. Today we'll be talking about a very sensitive subject, which is drug addiction. We'll be shedding light on it and discussing how to deal with it and the symptoms of it and how it affects our lives. This is why our show is called Stay in Control, because addiction makes you lose control. To do that, we have here Dr. Michael Bishara. How about you introduce yourself to us?
My name is Michael Bishara. I'm the clerical assistant professor at Loma Linda University for internal medicine and drug addiction. I have done a lot of shows. I've done a lot of talking about drug addictions, and I really love that subject since we can help a lot of people with it.
So, Dr. Michael, what is addiction? How would you define it?
The question really very important because it tells me when we have problems. For example, not any time that anybody drink a beer is an addict. Mm-hmm. Not everybody that does one thing becomes an addict in one thing. But the definition of drug addiction, so we all understand it, is that a use of a psychoactive substance. That means substance that affects the brain, any substance. And that can cause psychological problems, can cause psychosocial problems, legal issues, and despite I know these consequences, I still do it. That's the definition of drug abuse or drug addiction. The difference between the drug abuse and the drug addiction is one thing. When I stop, if I decided to stop the psychoactive substance, if I'm going to go through withdrawal, then it is an addiction. But if I don't have a withdrawal symptoms, I can stop. It's called an abuse.
So abuse is a stage before addiction.
Usually they are two different directions. It's not a step forward. For example, the drug abuser will remain drug abuser, but it will carry all the consequences of drug addiction too. But the only difference again between drug addiction and an abuser is, do we have a withdrawal symptoms or not? Okay. That's the only difference.
Yeah, I get it.
But the consequences are the same. And let me elaborate a little bit about the consequences so we understand it. For example, if I drink a beer, okay, I'm fine. There's no consequences to me. But for example, if I use marijuana or pot or hash, what happens? I get high, okay? I neglect to go to work. I'm not going to be able to work because I'm high. Also, I cannot take care of my children, my family, because I'm high. This is one of the consequences. For example, if I'm high, if I act crazy like the medication called Strux, now if I go and act like crazy, the police will know that I am under the influence of a substance, and then I can get arrested. I can go to prison for this. This is the legal consequences. The social consequences is that I'm not able to function as an individual. Means I cannot take care of my children, I cannot take care of my wife, I cannot take care of my family, okay, and I'm not be able to go to work. That will relate to the consequences, the economic consequences. Yeah. And we calculated at one time, just about alcohol, if you take away all the treatments, the number I'm going to give is $500,000 per life the patient loses in his life, not counting the medical expenses. It's just loss of work, loss of potentials. Mm-hmm. That's the legal consequences of addiction, psychological, social, and legal. But also, the psychological aspect of this drug addiction is that we have a problem that that drug or that alcohol will affect my brain that I cannot function correctly. And a lot of drug addicts, they will end up in psychological diagnosis like depression, anxiety, insomnia. Sometimes they get bipolar disorder. Sometimes they have hallucinations when you use meth. So these will cause psychological effect.
The consequences can be permanent sometimes.
Yes, in the cases, I'll give you an example of meth, the psychosis, which hallucinations. It can be temporary. It can last for a month, last for 6 months, or can last forever. I have seen all the cases.
Even if the addict stopped using.
Correctly. Even after the addict to stop using. I'm talking about the time frame is what I gave you, is that when the addict stops using, then is the psychosis going to go away, the hallucination is going to go away, or it's going to become permanent. It can last a little bit or can last forever. And I have seen all these cases again, as I said. There is no prediction. Nobody can predict if this hallucination will continue or it will stop.
When does the addiction start?
Very good question. And not a lot of people understand when does it start. Everybody thinks, oh, it will start 16, 18. Oh, I've known somebody who started at 20. But the numbers are saying that drug addiction starts between age of 9 to 11.
Wow, that's a young age.
Very, very young age. And of course, this is the average. This is the bell curve. But we have the -2 standard deviation to +2 standard deviation. That means what I said, 9 to 11, means we know this is the average. But some people will start early. Some people will start late. But that number continues to be correct.
How would a kid at the age of 9 get hold of drugs?
You'll be very surprised, Vicky, that the first drug is what? What do you think the first drug would be? Smoking. Smoking would be the first drug. So for parents that they start seeing their kid or their children, one of them starts to smoke, watch it. Be careful. Because that's the beginning of drug addiction. This is how it starts. It doesn't start with heroin. No, it does not. First, it starts with cigarettes. And then we'll move on. But it starts at a young age. This is my message to everybody, all the parents. This is a young age disease. It's not an old. Don't say that my kid is too young to do this. That's when it starts.
Okay, so why does addiction start? What makes an addict start using drugs?
There is in Proverbs, there is a verse that says that a filled soul will lose honey. But for a hungry soul, every bitter is good. What Proverbs are saying is that if I am just ate, for example, I just ate and I'm full. You give me something very, very good, very, very nice and tell me to eat. I'm sorry, I can't eat. Sorry, I'm hungry, I'm full. But for somebody who's hungry, who going to look in the garbage and to see what he can eat, and to him or to her, this will be very palatable, very good. I found something, dirt or things in the garbage, but I'm hungry, I'm gonna eat it. But if you give me something while I'm filled and I don't wanna eat, I'm not gonna eat it, no matter how.
So in some cases, you would say that maybe neglection or parental problems could cause addiction.
Yes, that's a very nice part, but this is not the full picture, Vicky. Okay, I'll tell you the full picture is. We are humans, are made of a body and a soul. Very simple, not complicated story. Very body, we take care of our bodies, okay? The soul is the problem now, and nobody takes care of the soul. And that's unhappy soul, that's when we start seeing all the consequences and the problems with addiction, problems with other things. It's not just addiction. St. Augustine said something very important to all of us, is that he said, God, my soul is part of you and will not rest until it is in you. So if I try to get happy, to have peace, except in God, I wouldn't get it. Then people who don't have that relationship with God will start looking other ways to find pleasures, to find peace, to find happiness. And there is no such a thing away from God. If you are away from God, you're going to need to stay with God to prevent you from getting into other things. And how it starts, I'm anxious. I'm not sleeping. I can't concentrate. Okay? For whatever reason is. We're going to look at those reasons. But the idea is, I'm anxious. I can't sleep. I'm not happy. So what I do, go and take something. People will ask me, if you're not happy, why didn't you take this? A pill will make you happy. And I take it and see something happen in the brain, I like it. Then it will continue until I cannot stop anymore. And this is how the addiction is. Basically, there's a lot of theories. So of course, when there's a lot of theories present, that means the truth is somewhere else. And the truth that nobody wants to say is that the absence of God in anybody's life. So again, to recap again, the addiction starts very young, and the people that will get addiction find themselves away from God, okay? And they have some symptoms like anxiety, depression, anxiousness, can't sleep. And these symptoms it's very common for all of us. But if we don't take care of it, it will lead to addiction. In the next episodes, we're going to be looking at more questions, like Vicky is giving me very good questions, and we'll answer it, and I'll try to explain as much as I can, and goodbye now.
So thank you, Dr. Michael. The information you gave us were very useful.
Thank you, Vicky, and we'll meet again in the next episode. Thank you.